Let's break something from the start. You've been taught to be honest with your intentions, to be open with your desires, to show your weaknesses even when it puts you at risk. And the worst part is that you accepted it as if it were normal. But tell me, what has that honesty done for you? Has it given you power? Has it given you control? Number. It has turned you into a predictable player in a game where others always seem to be 3 steps ahead, pulling strings while you stand exposed, showing all your cards. And this is where the idea that very few understand comes in. Thinking like Machiavelli, not as a way of being evil, but as a way of thinking smartly, of positioning yourself well, of gaining mental advantage. We are not talking about being cruel for no reason. We are talking about learning how power and influence really work. Because every time you show your true intentions, reveal your whole plan, or expose your strategy, you're giving away your advantage. Staying quiet is not dishonesty, it's calculation. And being a bit mysterious is not lying, it's smart. There are people who enter a room and without saying a word get respect and make others follow them. Not because they're scary, but because they've learned to be hard to read, to keep others guessing, to make people work for their approval, rather than giving it away easily. They don't share too much about their plans. They don't show their weak spots. They don't tell everyone what they'll do next because they understand something that most people don't. Information is power, and the less you reveal, the more power you keep. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand, what seems a bit mysterious, what takes effort to figure out. That's why truly powerful people make others both respect and wonder about them, because they control what others know, because they understand the basic truth that the person who knows more has more power. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago when he wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Not because fear itself is the goal, but because being too nice and predictable makes you easy to use. When others can't predict what you'll do, when they can't push your buttons, when they can't easily put you in a box, that's when you have the upper hand. And here's another key point. Controlling how others see you is not lying, it's a must-have skill. Let go of that need to look perfectly good, that urge to explain your reasons, that need to be understood by everyone. Let go of the belief that sharing everything is virtue, that being authentic means telling all, that honesty means holding nothing back. Let go of the need to be liked by everyone, to be approved by all, to avoid any criticism. Because the more you try to please everyone, the weaker your position gets. And trying to appeal to everyone is the opposite of having real influence. You can't be powerful if you constantly need approval from those you want to lead or influence. Machiavelli's ideal leader knows that appearances must be handled carefully. You should look virtuous when it helps, but never in ways that limit necessary action. The smart leader seems kind, yet remains able to be tough when needed. They look generous while carefully counting the cost and benefit of every gift. Controlling information is also a way of keeping power. You don't have to reveal your whole plan. You don't have to explain every decision in detail. You don't have to justify every careful move to those who would use that information against you. Because the truth is this, in competitive situations, others will use whatever information you give them to predict, manipulate, or undermine you. Don't give them the tools to do so. Keep your cards close and show them only when the timing helps you. In a world where everyone shares too much, the person who keeps some mystery has influence. In a world where everyone begs for approval, the one who seems self-sufficient gets respect. Looking slightly out of reach, seeming to know things others don't, appearing to work from a deeper understanding. These are tools of influence that work no matter what your actual position or resources are. Many mix up being Machiavellian with being mean or unethical, but it's not about hurting others. It's about thinking strategically. The person who acts without planning is controlled by circumstances. The person who thinks several moves ahead controls their environment. And that is not being mean, it is being wise. Strategic thinking is not manipulation, it's preparation. Choosing not to reveal all your intentions, choosing not to explain your every move, choosing to keep certain advantages hidden until the right moment. Sometimes the most powerful move is saying less rather than more, letting others fill the silence with their own assumptions, which often reveals their intentions more clearly than your words would have revealed yours. Machiavelli himself wrote, "Never try to win by force what can be won by deception." Not because lying is good, but because unnecessary fights waste energy. The strategic mind saves energy, avoiding battles that can be won through better positioning and managing how others see things. And when you start thinking strategically, something changes. The people who once controlled situations to their advantage find you hard to read. Those who used emotional triggers to control how you respond can no longer predict what you'll do. Those who expected to outmaneuver you find themselves outplayed, and you, keeping a calculated distance, continue moving ahead. The power that comes from not having to explain every move, not having to seek constant approval, not having to defend every decision is amazing. You begin to notice patterns in how people behave that you couldn't see before. You start to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate you before they succeed. You develop a gut feeling for group dynamics and how to position yourself well within them. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming thoughtful and deliberate in how you deal with others. But to get there, you must go through a challenging process. Building inner discipline. You have to stop needing to share everything, to be liked by everyone, to be seen as perfectly good at all times. Because as long as you keep acting based on how others will see you, rather than what works, you'll remain predictable. And being predictable makes you easy to outmaneuver. The strategic mind must be comfortable with being misunderstood sometimes. You must learn to handle criticism for decisions that will prove right in the long run. You must accept that not everyone will like your methods, even when they benefit from your results. This requires emotional control that few develop, the ability to separate how you feel inside from how you appear to others. The key is in calculated moves. Moves that aren't rushed, that aren't emotional, that aren't obvious to others right away. Moves that are timed just right, that use just the right amount of force, that serve multiple purposes at once, because you think about what will happen several steps ahead. And when you act with strategic calculation, people notice it. And yes, some may pull away, uncomfortable with your new clarity and purpose, but they weren't allies. They were complications. Machiavelli advised that the promise given was needed in the past, the promise broken is needed in the present. Not to encourage lying, but to recognize that circumstances change and the truly strategic mind adapts accordingly. Promises should be kept when possible, but not if keeping them would cause disaster. The strategic thinker knows that staying flexible means staying powerful. The strategic mind isn't stuck on being consistent just for its own sake, but rather stays adaptable as conditions change. Learning strategy also means learning not to team up with just anyone. You can't be everyone's ally. You can't stay loyal to those who work against you. You can't sacrifice your position for those who wouldn't do the same for you. Be extremely picky with your alliances, because who you connect with shapes your opportunities. And every time you align yourself with those who don't think strategically, you limit what you can achieve and make your path harder. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer isn't just a clever saying. It recognizes that being near someone gives you information, and information gives you advantage. The strategic mind builds relationships not just for friendship, but for the insight and access they provide. Every relationship involves an exchange of value. The question isn't simply whether you like someone, but whether the alliance helps your long-term goals. Calculation, observation, and careful sharing of information are not flaws. They are strengths of those who no longer need to reveal everything to be effective, those who no longer live to please but to achieve their goals. And that strategic clarity is so powerful, so effective, that those who see it want to have it, but they don't know that it can't be faked, copied, or quickly learned. It's built through practice, studying human nature, watching successful strategies, developing emotional discipline.
Machiavelli noted that a leader should appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, upright, while keeping the ability to be otherwise when necessary. Not because virtue doesn't matter, but because being too committed to any single virtue makes you easy to exploit. The leader who can't act decisively when kindness fails becomes useless. The leader who can't show kindness when appropriate becomes a tyrant. The next time someone tries to force you to act, remember this. Not answering right away keeps your options open. Not showing your position gives you advantage. Not explaining your strategy protects your moves. Watching carefully is your guide and patience is your protection. When Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because everybody can see but few can touch," he was acknowledging a basic truth. How things look matters more than reality in human affairs. Not because reality doesn't matter, but because perception controls how others respond to you. This doesn't mean creating big lies. Rather, it means recognizing that how your actions are framed and put in context often matters more than the actions themselves. The strategic mind pays attention not just to what is done, but to how it will be seen. knowing that the same action can be viewed as either cruel or decisive, weak or compassionate, depending on how it's presented. And when you become strategic, not because you want to manipulate others, but because you understand how influence works, the world begins to respond to you differently. Because the person who doesn't reveal every thought commands attention. The one who doesn't seek constant approval earns respect. The one who doesn't expose every vulnerability controls how interactions go. That simple, that effective. The strategic thinker doesn't need to yell. Their words carry weight because they're chosen carefully. They don't need to make threats. Their reputation for thoughtful action speaks for them. They don't need to constantly prove their authority. Their proven effectiveness establishes it without saying so. Being Machiavellian is not being without morals. It's being effective. It's not manipulating others for selfish gain. It's understanding how influence really works. It's not lying without reason. It's being strategic with full information. And when you understand that, you realize that you've always had the ability to think strategically. You just had to stop mixing up openness with virtue. The path to influence isn't through telling everything, but through careful revealing. Not through emotional reactions, but through strategic responses. Not through trying to look good in every moment, but through effectively moving toward worthwhile goals over time. The strategic mind plays the long game, seeing beyond immediate reactions to final outcome. So tell me, will you keep exposing your every thought, letting others set the rules of engagement? Or will you start choosing what information you share, what alliances you form, what battles you fight? Because that choice, even if it seems small, determines whether you shape events or are just shaped by them. And you make that choice through every interaction, every disclosure, every alliance. The strategic mind isn't just about gaining power over others. It's about gaining power over yourself. The discipline to wait when others rush, to watch when others act, to stay calm when others get emotional. That self-control is the foundation of all outside influence. In a world full of quick reactions, the person who stays composed stands out. In a place where everyone talks at once, the one who really listens gets the most valuable information. In a culture obsessed with getting things now, the one who can wait for bigger rewards becomes exceptional. This is why Machiavelli's ideas have lasted for centuries. They speak to basic aspects of human nature that don't change with time or culture. The leader who understands the relationship between appearances and reality, between being popular now and being effective long-term, between what people say they want and what actually drives them. This leader will always win over those who have simpler understandings of power. Now, some will see only manipulation in these ideas, seeing only chances to use others. But the truly strategic mind knows that lasting influence can't be built on pure deception or naked self-interest. Machiavelli himself knew that while looking virtuous is sometimes more important than being virtuous, a leader who becomes truly hated will eventually fall. The skill lies in knowing when openness serves your purpose and when holding back does, when to reveal your intentions and when to keep them guarded, when to build alliances based on shared interests and when to stay independent. Because that choice, even if it seems small, determines whether you shape events or are just shaped by them. And you make that choice through every interaction, every disclosure, every alliance. The strategic mind isn't just about gaining power over others. It's about gaining power over yourself. The discipline to wait when others rush, to watch when others act, to stay calm when others get emotional. That self-control is the foundation of all outside influence. In a world full of quick reactions, the person who stays composed stands out. In a place where everyone talks at once, the one who really listens gets the most valuable information. In a culture obsessed with getting things now, the one who can wait for bigger rewards becomes exceptional. This is why Machiavelli's ideas have lasted for centuries. They speak to basic aspects of human nature that don't change with time or culture. The leader who understands the relationship between appearances and reality, between being popular now and being effective long-term, between what people say they want and what actually drives them, this leader will always win over those who have simpler understandings of power. Now, some will see only manipulation in these ideas, seeing only chances to use others. But the truly strategic mind knows that lasting influence can't be built on pure deception or naked self-interest. Machiavelli himself knew that while looking virtuous is sometimes more important than being virtuous, a leader who becomes truly hated will eventually fall. The skill lies in knowing when openness serves your purpose and when holding back does, when to reveal your intentions and when to keep them guarded, when to build alliances based on shared interests and when to stay independent. And this understanding doesn't come through formulas or simple rules. It comes through developing judgment, through studying human behavior, through building the emotional intelligence to read situations accurately. The strategic mind doesn't just know the tactics. It knows when and how to use them based on a careful reading of the specific situation at hand. That's why true Machiavellian thinking isn't about becoming manipulative like some cartoon villain. It's about becoming strategically smart in a world where power dynamics always exist, whether we admit them or not. It's about replacing naive approaches to influence with practical ones. About seeing the world as it is, rather than as we might wish it to be.